Welcome to today's podcast. My name is Christine. I will be the host today, and we are going to be interviewing the one and only Kimmy from the YouTube channel She's in Her Apron. She was one of the very first YouTube channels that I enjoyed watching way back in the mid 20-teens, like 2015, 2016, right in there. She does a ton of content relating to food and everything in the kitchen, cooking, recipes, meal planning, how to shop, how to set up a rotating pantry so you don't have to go to the store quite so often, how to set up a long-term food storage pantry that you can pick from and shop in your own home. I will have all of Kimmy's information and where to find her linked in the show notes or in the description if you are watching the video version. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, I would love it if you would do that so you don't miss future episodes. And without further ado, let's go talk to Kimmy. I'm trying to decide, what do you think is worse, teaching kids to drive or potty training?
Oh, potty training.
But when you're potty training, you're not
phases
possibly going to die.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's two widely separated phases. I have a hard time driving with my kids. It gives me anxiety. They could be great drivers and I can't do it. And now I understand my mom. I used to get so annoyed with my mom. And I'm like, I don't want to drive with you. I get it. Like, yes, you're nervous, but it's like the Father of the Bride movie where he looks across the table and she's like, I met a boy and we're getting married. You know, I look at them like this little thing in the chair driving. So I'm just like, it's really bad when they drive with me. I try not to be. I really do, because your anxieties like seriously leach into them. Like they could feel it, but Derek does a lot of the driving with the kids.
I do most of it because I think Dave is like you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would not think that. I would not think that.
He has a shorter fuse than I do. I'm more of the, if a cop were here, that would have been a ticket. I'm like endlessly patient with them, but even still, they're so bad that I'm like, I'm going to lose it. I swear. Maybe it's just my kids. I don't know. They get behind the wheel of a car and I think their IQ drops 50 points.
Well, it's weird because we're so used to driving that you would think that they would get like, what made you think that you could turn into that parking lot that short of a radius? I guess we're so used to it. I'm just like, it's hard. Being patient with them is hard.
Mine is they don't know where anything is. So my 16-year-old, he gets his license and I'm like, okay, take these donations. Go drop the donations off. You've done it with me a million times. It's like 2 miles from my house. Okay.
Where is it? Where do I go? Type of thing?
Well, it's down Main Street and then you take one left. It's like, and there's a big sign. Like you can't miss it. It's really, truly not that hard. I live in a very small town and he's gone for like an hour. I was like, dude, it's like a 3-mile round trip. And he comes home. I'm like, what? I couldn't remember how to get there. So I ended up at Walmart and I'm like, yeah, you passed it. You just went right past it if you ended up at Walmart. Okay, but here's the really funny part. I signed them up for ski school. One day at school, he forgot his ski gear. They bust them out there. And he calls me. He's like, I forgot my ski gear at home. And I'm like, well, you're either going to run home and grab it or you're going to be cold. So he runs home to grab his gear. I was somewhere else. I don't know where I was. And the bus comes home and I go pick the kids up from the bus and he's not on the bus. And I'm like, what's going on? And then he drives up in the car with all his gear. And I was like, what are you doing? Did you miss ski school? And he goes, no, I drove out there. He drove to the ski hill. The kid that can't drive 2 miles from my house on a main road to do a donation made it to the ski hill and back in the dark. That's when Dave was fine. And I was like, how?
I know, because like our oldest son, like once he turned 18, we can't do much for him because he's 18. Like doctors, like there's a lot of things he still has to do. You know, when he was enlisting in the army, there's like things I can't help you with. Like you have to go do it on your own, you know, and he would get nervous, like calling to make an appointment somewhere or calling the bank or like he would get anxiety. But yet when he's in another situation, they're a pro. And I'm just like, but like these little adulting things, like I have to call and make the appointment. I'm like, yeah, it was the weirdest thing. He could do all these other hard things and go do these things. But when it comes to making a phone call, it terrifies him. Even like to this day, like he'll call me where he's stationed and be like, I got to fix this issue over here. Da, da, da. What do I do? You call them. He's just like, oh, I don't know about that. And I'm like, but yet you have no fear of running into danger.
So one of the things that I did when I was coaching my kids through the phone call thing, because by the time they're 15, I'm having them like call and make their own haircut appointments. And if they're
That's
driving,
good.
I'm like, you need to call and make an oil change appointment. And then you're going to go take it in yourself. And then this is how you pay. And, you need to call and make an eye doctor appointment. They all wear glasses. And so what we
Yeah.
did is we would script it on a piece of paper. Right. So they had like a guideline. Hi, my name is, I'd like to make an appointment for, and I'm like, have your calendar open, write it down. Thank you so much. I'll see you then, kind of thing. So that's one of my little teenager hacks, if you will. So my question for
Good
you
one.
is, do you have any parenting hacks that you were like, you know what, as far as parenting goes, on this one, I nailed it?
Oh,
Do you have any that you were like, I'm so proud of this?
man.
Just try to make it through.
That's a good question, because we so focus on the negative. I was just having this conversation yesterday with, those lovely teacher meetings where you just am like, can I shrink in a hole? And like,
Oh, I turn into
like,
Mama Bear in those meetings. I get furious.
okay, here's what happened yesterday, and I'll answer your question. You've got
Okay.
Okay, so yesterday it was a tag team day. Derek and I had to tag team. So it was like, you are going to take this meeting over here with this child. I can't do another one of these. I can't. We have a child, one on an IEP. I'm one of those moms. I'm that mom that like has an opinion, like I'm respectful, but I'm also just not accepting their BS, because I'm always like, well, how do you think that's working for them? Like for the students, is that working? Are you seeing that in their reading scores? Like I'm one of those moms. Like, how does that make sense? Or like, my child has ADHD and dyslexia, and they have to, like, for the end of the year testing, they're supposed to like know all the states within a time period.
Oh, why
I'm
do they
like,
have a time period? Why can't it just be unlimited
yeah.
time? That seems like an easy accommodation.
And I'm like, why does this have to be timed? If they know the states, they know the states.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it's just a thing they do. It's timed and they're graded on that. I'm like, are you kidding me? What do you do with these? Like my child. Well, they still have to do it this way. I'm like, are you kidding? How many states did they know in a minute? Why does
Why
that
does that
matter?
matter?
Why
I
does
don't
it
think
matter when
I know
they
all the
leave
states.
school and they're out in the real world? Why
Right.
does it matter? Like, I am
No,
so
Kimmy, I had to know that information last week for adulting. All 50 alphabetically in 1 minute. This is
oh,
important information.
I know. It's crazy. So I guess nailing, like with my kids, that's a very good question. I don't know. I can't even think of it. I would say probably,
I feel like
you know
you
what?
fight for
Okay.
your kids, don't you think?
Yeah, I do fight for my kids, but
Yeah.
okay, this is where I've nailed it. I have told them that dad and I can't always be there to help you with your battles. Like, because once you're gone, you're going to have to do that. And I told them, you have to use your voice. In fact, this was a conversation I had with a lady yesterday at the meeting I had to go to. We had a split. And so I was talking to her about a situation with her daughter that her daughter's in. And I was like, oh, that sticks. And then I gave her some advice. And this was the advice. I said, you've got to teach her to be an advocate for herself, because the teachers aren't going to be there for her. She's being bullied. The teachers aren't going to be there for you. The school's not going to be there for you. Mom's not there next to you. Like, you have to be an advocate and use your voice. So if you know you're supposed to be allotted more time at school and she's not giving it to you, you can't be quiet. You have to use your voice and advocate for yourself. And we notice that with all our kids are different and they all have certain needs. And it's like, we can't be there to hold your hand. You have to be an advocate for yourself and fight for yourself.
I love that from a different perspective. I totally get it for kids, but I also feel that way for women. I don't know if I'm going to say this the right way. I have a lot of friends, some family members who allow themselves to be treated badly under the guise of being kind.
Oh
or
my goodness,
nice.
I had this conversation yesterday.
Yes. And they, they label themselves as, well, I'm nicer than that. And I'm like, you're a doormat. You are letting people walk all over you because you're not setting any boundaries at all. And of course, there's extremes on either end, right?
Yeah.
And yes, I think you should be kind. I'm not saying not be kind. And I'm not saying be so stubborn that you don't listen to anybody. But I think a lot of the women that I talk to and work with are just being nice is like the most important thing to them and to their own detriment.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating to me because I don't want them to be hurting. How about that? Like I don't want people to treat them badly. And it makes me angry, like in defense of them.
Yep.
Like I don't want them to be treated badly. So I'm like, and so I want to defend them a little bit. And I'm like, just set a few boundaries. Kind of like what you're saying, like use your voice and be like, I'm not going to allow this thing. I think it's an important lesson for anybody, children. But I think a lot of the time women are used to like being quiet and kind above all. And I don't know that that's it right now.
No. No, I have come a long way. And I've learned to understand myself a little bit better in the last year. And I learned recently about the personality anagram. And
Yes.
I am a 2, so I'm a helper. And now I understand why it is so hard to say no. And as a 2, you want to be liked, you want to be appreciated, you want to be seen in a way, but you want people's approval. And it's so funny because there's times where I could give a flip if someone likes me or not. But there are times but I noticed that outside my walls, outside my home, I don't care. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care. But I do care about the people in my home. Am I enough for them, or do they love me? Like, it's weird. Like I noticed, like learning more about my personality, I understand why it's hard to say no. And so I understood like, okay, I have to start saying no to things and no to people. And so the last like year, but also more than last year, I would say the last 3 or 4 years, I've put up more boundaries, not a wall, but boundaries. It's okay to not be as friendly. We all have our instincts, like I was having this conversation with this mom, like she feels like she can't use her voice. Like you said, she has to be nice, but the line has already been crossed. She can't now. Like she has to be not mean,
I think
but
you can be firm and kind at the same time, but
yes, firm and kind.
yes.
Like there's no, like I was telling her, she can't mince her words. She can't, like my husband, he's a 9 on the Enneagram, and they don't like confrontation. Like if we could just make everyone happy, where I like to like rough the waters. And so that's how we're different in that way. And so it's like, we don't want to rough the waters here, but you have to learn to use your voice and be able to say no, or I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. I don't accept that, because people in their mind, they think it's acceptable. And a lot of people don't have the social cues to understand what you're saying. So if you're not clear, it's doing you such a detriment. Oh yeah, especially women right now. Man, oh man.
I have so many thoughts about this topic. It's hard to narrow my thoughts down to one thing. Let's see if I can figure out these 3 things I want to say. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 is I was told recently that I was an 8 personality.
Oh, that's interesting.
Motivated to be self-reliant, strong, independent. When healthy, 8s are caring, positive, playful, truthful, straightforward, generous, and supportive. Yep. So when someone said I was an 8, one of the people in the group were like, no, 8s are Bias, or a witch with a B. Okay. Oh, because she just like assumed all 8s were that way, and not
healthy. Yes.
Not healthy ones for sure. And so I was like, oh, okay, I can see that, So I think that's super interesting, because I would say overall, Dave says, as I've gotten older, I've become more rigid in my boundaries and what I allow and don't allow. He says he appreciates it, because if he ever does something that I dislike, I don't do it publicly, but like later, I'm like, okay, when this happened, I'm not happy with like, you said this or you did this thing, and this is not good with me. And so he really likes that, so he can know how I'm feeling about things. The second thing is, as you were talking about the personality differences, and boundaries in women, I was thinking about my daughter. I only have one daughter, and she is 18. And this is kind of the parenting teenagers thing. She was always the nice person. Like, you can't say that because that's mean. And I'm like, well, it's the truth. Like, is it more important to be nice than to be honest. I don't understand. And she had a few friends when she was much younger, 12, 13, middle school. I know. Ugh. And she had a friend, one in particular, that really treated her badly, extremely flaky, let her down all the time. And I had to deal with a crying daughter often, very, very often. So eventually I tried to coach her through this for a very long time. If you're going to be friends with this girl, you have to understand who she is.
Yeah.
She's going to do this. Like, you can't expect her to act differently than who she is. So if you're going to be friends with her, you have to be okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, you're not going to hang out anymore. Like, it's this one or this one. And she got hurt and cried by this one girl for a very long time. And then they had a falling out. Like, there was an event that, broke the camel's back. And she was like, I'm done. I'm not putting up with this crap anymore. And so they haven't been friends for a couple of years now. And she moved on to a new friend group. And it's been so good. She found friends that don't let her down all the time. And that can be a really hard lesson to learn for any age. But I still think it's really important.
Well, it's good that she's learning it now, because as an adult, it doesn't change. Like,
Right.
I mean, honestly, like I'm a friendly person. I love meeting new people. I have the opportunity to network more and meet a lot of women in the area. And I've learned, like, not everyone has to be in your close bubble. And I accept who I want in the bubble. I have people 1 foot in the bubble. I have people right outside the bubble. I have people that are like a mile away from the bubble. And that's okay. I've learned it's okay. And then I learned that certain people are in your life, can be in your life at a certain time. I just learned that I have to protect me. And like, I like this person, but I'm not going to have them that close to me. I've noticed about me that I have a good read on people, and I kind of have spidey sense. It's really weird. And it kind of like spooks Derek, and it drives him crazy. And I'm also, like, with my ADHD and with me being a 2, I also learned that 2 see patterns. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so me. Like, I could tell, like, if we go down this road, if we keep making these steps in our life or with this kid, I already know how a Z is going to end. And Derek's always like, oh, no, it's not going to be that way. I'm all, okay. And then it always happens. He's like, how'd you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I just know. And so we're all blessed with these little gifts, and this is my gift, and I can't explain it. Like, I'll know friends are pregnant before they even tell me.
Oh, you are good.
I know. It's really creepy. I don't know how I know. I just know. Now, will I know when my daughter gets pregnant? Who knows? But, I'm always like, will I have the spidey sense when she's pregnant and before she tells us? I hope not. I don't want to be like ruined by a surprise or something, But I can pick up on people's energy very well. And I know if I am going to just, like, nice to meet you, but I'm in my mind saying, I'm getting red flags. I'm just going to put them right here for right now, because sometimes first impressions aren't always what they seem to be. And I will give people chances. And then if I meet them again and I'm still getting that sense, I'm like, no, they're an acquaintance. I don't need to have them in my space. I'm very guarded. I've been more guarded the last, like, 5 years of my life than any other time. It's been interesting.
YouTube has actually made me more guarded.
Same. Yeah, just experiences that we've had as a family, and you add the social aspect of YouTube and social media into it, and I'm like, oh. And which is hard because I like to share and I like helping, but I have dialed it in even on my channel, which has upset the public.
I feel like there's so many things I could help people with if I felt like I was allowed to talk about certain topics. But just from experiences as, being a mom to different ages of kids, or how to deal with making friends, or a variety of topics, I feel like I could, I don't know, give advice or be like, hey, I've been there, like, I know. But I'm telling you what, people online, this is a generalization. This is not everybody, because my audience is vastly positive, like 95% positive.
Yeah.
But those 5% are so incredibly vicious. Every day I'm a little more shocked that people are so mean.
They have cojones. They've got big Cojones.
But
I've
but
been
do they? Because those are never the people that have their own picture on their profile. So I don't think they do.
I will say part of that is why I don't share as much as I used to. But there is so much I want to share. So much. Like the seed has been planted with Derek and I. I think I might have had this conversation with you one-on-one about our son. And there's so much we want to share that could help parents. Derek and I have been on an insane journey as parents. And I want to share so much and help so many parents that have children in a situation that we've had, a child that had needs that are very, very hard to meet and help with. And I just want them to know that they are seen, that they're doing a good job.
What's your favorite part about being a mom?
My favorite part of being a mom is seeing where they have low self-esteem about something they want to do. They don't lack the confidence. And then they go and do it. And then they realized, oh, that wasn't as scary as I thought, or I could do it. That brings me joy. That brings me joy. When they discover something in them. Like, yes, you can motivate them and guide them and like, but when it has literally nothing to do with you as a parent and it is all of them like digging in. I love that. I love that.
So what's your favorite age to parent? Because you've got much older ones and then you don't really have babies anymore, but you know, you have grown children now. So what's your favorite age, you think?
Oh, that's a tough one. Derek came down this morning with our niece in his arms. We have family visiting and she's 3 months old. And I'm like, 3 months was my favorite as a baby. When they were a baby, 3 months old, it's like when they're starting to like really smile but yet they're not movable and they're still like baby. Like I love 3 months old. I love 3 months old. And so she's just like this little doll. I love the kindergarten years, how they would get so excited about things. And I loved that. But, you know, teenage years are fun too, even when they're hard. Oh, they could be so hard, but they are so fun and their personalities and the discussions that we have are interesting. Like we're a very open family. So the discussions we have now, they're hilarious. So I don't know. They all have their awesomeness, but I guess like when you can really just like sit and talk and hear their opinions on something and why they think that way. We never try to push like our views on our children. So when they start forming their own thoughts and opinions, just hearing how they came up with it, I'm like, this is cool.
I heard recently, I can't remember who it was, but the guy said, if your kids want to come talk to you, shut your yap and listen to every single thing they have to say as long as they want to talk. They want to come into your room when they're 15 and talk to you until midnight, let them. And it's something that I actually do a lot because I really, really enjoy, you know, like you said, like hearing their opinions and their feelings and their dreams and their fears. And I think it's super important to be a safe space for your kids because my husband, Dave, is my safe space. I can tell him literally anything, the worst thoughts I've ever had. And he knows that I'm just like not saying it right or, you know, that inside I have a good heart and he just lets me like be me 100% and doesn't think worse of me because of it. And I think kids need that. And as I was listening to this guy talk about what teenagers need, and they need parents who will do that, who will just listen and listen and listen, because before you know it, they're not going to be talking to you anymore because they're going to move out and they're going to move on to the next stage as they should, but you will never, ever regret those late nights or those moments where you just listen to them share their heart. And it's one of my favorite things.
When we know something's up, when Derek and I are just laying in bed at night, you know, we'll fall asleep watching Friends. I don't know how many times we've watched all 10 seasons, but it's our thing.
Same Z's.
Oh yeah.
I could do every episode, every line, have the whole thing memorized.
Yeah, but it doesn't get old to us. We'll laugh at it like we've never seen it before. It's great. So we know when one of them comes in when they're supposed to be in bed, like at midnight, and they are just standing there at the doorway, we're like, okay, click, you know, and it is hard not to interject or give your opinion or give your advice and keep your trap shut. It is so hard. And I noticed that for me, I also have to keep my face because I wear like everything on my face. It's so everything shows here. So I learned like with each child is different. So I learned with one of my children, like no expression. Like you could scream on the inside, but but just don't show it and just listen. Because like you said, just like you said, they're not going to come talk to you. And I noticed like I've heard my kids, you know, I heard back from like Derek saying like they want to talk to you about this, but they know like not that I'm going to get mad at them, but they know they'll see it. And so I have to like reel it in.
My 16-year-old was going to tell me something. He's extremely sensitive. He's one of those that has like that golden heart that just wants everyone to have what they want. And it doesn't make him a good athlete because he's like, oh, did you want to win? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let you win this time. So he came up to me and he was like, I have to tell you what happened at school today. He's like fighting back tears. And I go to this crazy place.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like my brain is I'm thinking of my growing up experience, which I guess was not as sheltered as theirs, you know? So I'm like going to these crazy places. My heart's beating and my face is turning red. And I'm like coaching myself in my head. I'm like, keep it together. Don't overreact. Keep it calm. Let him say anything. Doesn't matter what he says. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It ended up being nothing. It was like, someone called me a dummy. I don't know, something really minimal. And I was like, okay, we can handle that.
No, because the things that the kids face in school right now, like when they come to you, you're like, oh, hold on.
Oh no.
It could be anything. Yeah, my 15-year-old's like that, and he's sweet as can be, and he takes on other people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say he's probably an empath because he will take it on and he will then make it his responsibility. Like our friends aren't getting along. I have to fix this, you know, and he'll come home like very upset. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like thinking like something happened to him. And he's thinking about something his friend is going through. And he takes on all of that. And we're like, honey, you can't take on all of that. It is weighing you down. Like you can't. So it's like teaching him how to be a friend, but not take on all of that energy and feel like then you're like responsible. Like you have to like do everything for them or like, I don't know. It's weird, but this boy is different. All my kids are different.
I've noticed that my kids are extremely different from each other. Although I would say my second son and my last son are semi-similar. It's easier for me to parent them because they remind me of me when I was a kid. So like they'll do things and I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to do that exact thing. Or they'll come home and they'll be like, so this happened at school today. And I just kept thinking this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was pulled straight from my brain. I thought that exact thing when I was in this grade, you know, and my husband is much more like my daughter. So she does things that I'm like, why is she being crazy? And he's like, I totally get it. So sometimes we'll have to be like, I got this one.
Yeah.
Because I was that kid, you know, like I see myself in them and that's a little scary, but I'm kind of like, I know how to handle this one because I knew how I was at that age. We will get back to the podcast in just a minute, but first I wanted to let you know that I have found the solution to my laundry problems. First of all, when I travel and I stay in an Airbnb and I don't want to buy huge containers of plastic heavy jugs that end up in landfills and oceans, I don't want to buy laundry detergent that is mostly water. And to save space in my own laundry room in my house, I switched to EarthBreeze. And my friends, you could do it too. The new EarthBreeze laundry detergent eco sheets look like dryer sheets, but they are not. It's a liquidless laundry detergent that dissolves 100% in any wash cycle, cold, hot, whatevs. You don't have to measure it. No heavy plastic jugs. Just toss the sheet in. The packaging is lightweight, biodegradable, plastic-free, and it's great for all laundry lifestyles. Sensitive skin, sensitive noses. The sheets are hypoallergenic and tested by dermatologists. And if you're wondering if they're compatible with high efficiency washers like mine, they are. That's what I have, and they are septic safe. EarthBreeze Eco Sheets are a subscription-based option, so they offer flexible subscriptions that can be adjusted, paused, or canceled by you at any time. No contracts, no extra fees. Most importantly, you can still get a powerful clean. EarthBreeze is tough on stains, fights odors, and your clothes come out clean every single time. Don't just take my word for it. You can try it yourself with their risk-free 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't like it, Earthbreeze will give you a full refund, no questions asked, and no return necessary. The only thing you really have to lose is stinky laundry that you don't want anyway. So switch from the old-fashioned goo to something new. Right now, my listeners can subscribe to Earthbreeze and save 40%. Go to earthbreeze.com/FFM to get started. That's earthbreeze.com/FFM for 40% off. earthbreeze.com/FFM. Now let's get back to chatting with Kimmy. You and Derek have been married a long time now.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate 25 in July.
Woo! Holy cow. Okay, a quarter century. Wait, you've been married longer than you've been single.
Yeah, wow.
Right?
Now I'm old. Thanks.
You're definitely old. I'm on my way as well. You're only a few years older than me. Dave and I are at 20 years this year. You're at 25. I'm at 20. Give me like your best successful marriage tips, or tips that you got that you were like, dude, this one worked, or advice you'd give to people who wanted to get married and have it be long-term. Like, what would you tell them?
Our oldest is married and her husband is awesome. And I remember, when she left the nest, I did say to her, look, when you are dating, because at this point, when you're starting to date more, you're outside the home, you're an adult, you're a young adult, you're living your life. Dating has a different tone than in high school, right?
Yes.
So I told her that if the man had no good work ethic right now,
red flag.
And I said, look how he treats his family. And I also told her, and I may have given her a book that was like questions to ask like the person you're dating.
Oh my gosh, Dave and I did the same thing.
And I can't remember the name of the book.
I can't remember the name of the book either, but it was like, who's going to do this chore?
It went from what to ask them now, and then like, I think certain phases into your dating. So you got to know them on like, do you have debt? How do you budget? Like, you're not going to say that on the first date, like, what's your debt? And then it led into questions that are so important of like, how much porn do you watch a week? Because that can stem into a lot of things into your relationship down the road. So there were questions to get to know them before you got married, which, the world is different. There's people that date for like years and years, and there's people that date for a few months and they get married. I wanted her, like, I already knew my daughter. She's very grounded. I didn't have to worry there with her, like, at all. But I wanted her to be able to ask these things, because some people get into a marriage and honestly, they don't have a clue who the person is. And yes, you do change over time. I've gotten to know, it's 25 years. I'm not the same person I was when we first got married. And I feel like at every 5-8 years, like, we're different people. And it's like, we've got to get to know each other more. So that's my thing with before you get married, like, really get to know the person. How do you handle certain situations? This is how you know what I mean? Just talk. So for Derek and I, one advice that we got over the years with one of the therapists that we had as a family therapist, he said, you have to start dating each other again. And he said, I don't care how you do it. I don't care if it's just going out and sitting in the backyard. You have to get out of the house and go date. Go do something and be together and talk. And one advice was not to talk about the kids.
Okay.
So literally try to do that. Like, try to go out to eat or go do something and not mention the kids. Because sometimes we'd be sitting there like, oh, crap. What do I ask them that's not about the kids? They're your whole life. They're like, you eat, breathe for your family. So how do you do this? So I found a long time ago this website called thedatingdivas.com. They are so fun. They have an Instagram, and there are so many ideas of what you could do for dates and questions and what to talk about, like, just to get to know them. And so we would start doing things like that.
I find the dating thing easier when your kids are much older. Did you guys start this when you had small kids? I found the most difficult time for me was the small, like, parenting very small children who needed you physically. And I was the stay-at-home mom all the time. And I just needed to go grocery shopping by myself and just have 30 minutes, like, with no one needing me.
Yeah.
including my husband. I didn't want anyone to need me. I just needed to not be needed.
I'm that same way. I'm like, if there's a chance I could be home and Derek could take all the kids and leave, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
I need a break. I need, like, seriously, a mental break. I felt guilty about it, and I thought, am I being a brat? That seems kind of bratty and selfish.
Is it?
But here's the thing. I learned that with learning the Enneagram and your personality, oh no, like you literally need them. For me as a 2, I literally need that as like a reboot, because we are such the helper, and as women and moms, we have to reboot, and you have to reboot as a couple, and he does too. You know that line from The Office? We say it all the time. Why are you the way that you are? Was it Michael that says it to someone? Why are you the way that you are? And so, as young, we would go out. We went out, not all the time, but we would go out. But then it slowed down a bit. And then when the kids were, Shaylee was still a baby, and our oldest was 14, 15. It was like, no, you guys have once a week, got to leave, get a babysitter. And if we couldn't get a babysitter, we've had dates in the garage, like in the car, with the music on, with food. Derek and I love food. And we're like, we'll go get the food and come back and just talk.
Yeah, when we had younger children, it was a lot harder to get the babysitter and make it an effort. We had no money. Just paying the babysitter was an extravagance, really. And as the kids have gotten older and the kids could watch each other, we could leave them alone. It's been much easier to maintain the dating thing. But sometimes the stress of parenting, certain situations, nothing bad, but let's say homework. For the love of all that is holy, can we just abolish homework? I'm so over homework. I do not want to help my son with honors trig. Okay. I don't want to do that. And then they miss something because they're sick, and then they got to catch up, and then it's times 4, and it's a crisis. Everything is on fire. The floor is lava. And Dave gets home from work, and I'm like, I can't, I don't want to parent anymore. I just want to get in my car and drive to Mexico and stop. I don't want to be in charge of this. I'm so over it. And what's great about the older kids is we get in the car. We don't drive to Mexico, but we drive to a sporting goods store and we walk around, and we were like, look at this hiking shoe. Look at this soft material of this jacket. We don't buy anything usually. We just wander around because we cannot even, I don't want to deal with the kids. I don't want to deal with their homework. I'm really excited for school to be over, by the way. And then the college applications with my oldest has been, every week is a crisis. We applied to this one school. I'm sure you know the one we're talking about. That's like an Ivy League application with 6 essays and all of the interviews and all of the recommendations from all of the people. It was a nightmare. And it got done, and we were like, now it's time for the FAFSA.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
I used to not look forward to summer break. There was a time period in our life, and I even did a video on this on YouTube. I was very raw. I was like, I'm not one of those moms that are like, oh no, I don't ever want summer to end. I love having all my babies around me. No, there was a season where it was very hard because certain children, we have children that have certain needs, that structure is the way to go. And when there is no structure, watch out. So
it's harder. Yeah.
There was a few years where it was like, oh gosh, no, we only have 2 weeks left. I got to mentally gear for this. Okay, what do we got going on? What camps can we sign up for? Is there travel leagues for the sport they're in? What can we do to keep some sort of structure and routine? Because there cannot be a free fall. There just cannot be. So, but right now I am looking forward to summer. I'm tired.
The one I didn't mind is my senior was doing an English project on Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, fun.
So that one's actually been good because it's one of my favorite stories. It's so complex. The characters are so flawed. Their arguments are so proper and they're so vicious. And I love the dialogue of it. So I've been actually really enjoying her working through the book. So my oldest daughter's not what I would call a reader. I would call myself a reader. I have books everywhere. I always have one in my purse. There's 10 on my nightstand, right? I just read everything. And she's like, why would I read when I can go partay with my friends? So this is my parenting hack for kids that are like that, who are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to read a book, is get it on Audible. I'm serious. Get it on Audible, put the book in their hand, and then speed up the Audible to like 1.3 and then have them listen while they follow along. It has been glorious for my non-readers. Really fantastic. So she's been reading the book and then she'll come out and she'll be like, Mom, Lydia is so annoying. And I'm like, I know she is. And then she'd come out and she'd be like, the mom is horrible. And then she's like, Mr. Collins is so slimy. And I'm like, I know. And then as her reward, we got to watch the 6-hour A&E version together. And okay, I'm so excited about this. So she has to write a paper. She's like, how am I supposed to sum up this story in 1 page? And I'm like, I know, like it's impossible, but she has to do a visual presentation of her choosing. And I was like, okay, what if we pull modern like shorts or reels ideas? So we were like, okay, what if we did like Elizabeth Bennet being a complete savage for 2 minutes? And we like found her best put downs and like stitched them together. And it was so much fun. We even talked about we were like, if Pride and Prejudice were acted out today, and like doing a modern version of like Lydia's on TikTok again. Like,
oh my gosh. I hope you do that because that's a really good idea.
It's so funny. It's so funny. So her and I have actually had a good time with that particular assignment. But the honors trig, I'm out. Yeah. Okay, so speaking of books, that's a nice segue. Pride and Prejudice to books. Do you read much? Are you a reader?
I used to be, like when the kids were younger. And even with my ADHD, it'd be hard to read. But if I could find a book that I could get sucked into very quickly, I would read and try to find anything like it and just read and read. I would have to say, though, that once I started YouTube, that went away. It got busier, and then the kids were older, so I had all the teen stuff and then YouTube. So now it's Audible. I listen a lot, but I did buy this pretty version of Persuasion at Barnes & Noble's. It's beautiful. It's like this beautiful cover, and it's goldeny specks in it, and it's like purple and black. And that's my favorite book from Jane Austen is Persuasion.
Seriously?
That story just tugs at my heart so much. I know the outcome, but I still am like, are they going to get together? Is he really, does he really understand that she is still in love with him? Like, it gets me. I love Persuasion.
What's your favorite book of all time? Is it that one?
Of all time?
Yeah, all time. Let's do a novel. Favorite novel.
Oh, that's a tough one. I like classics. I really, really like Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre.
Whoa. Wuthering Heights. Look at you go.
I like that story for some reason, and I can't put my finger on why I like it. I don't know, but I like reading both of them. I always fall back on Jane Eyre.
Great story.
Yeah. I listen to more than anything. And what you said for your daughter with the book and the speed, we started doing that with our son who has ADHD. And now sometimes he doesn't even need the Audible because it helped him.
So my middle son, so I have 3 sons. So my middle son also has ADHD and struggles also, not a reader, let's say. And so I'll add one for him that's been super helpful because it was a disaster at our house. I put him in a dark room and make him close his eyes. And so he doesn't actually follow along in the book. He just listens. It was the only way he could get through the books he had to read for school. But it was Audible. It was sped up in a dark room with his eyes closed. So there were literally no distractions.
I have the cutest video of our son who has ADHD as a kid in his Iron Man helmet because the eyes were blue. And we learned with his dyslexia that like if you put a light blue shade like over his paper, like those clear folders, put that over his book or paper, he could read it good. And so he would read when he was little through this Iron Man helmet, and he would so we've got these pictures and video of him just reading like through the helmet, and it's the cutest thing. I love it. It's like whatever works. And that's the thing, like being a mom, like you cannot give a flying flip what your mom thinks, what your mother-in-law thinks, what your neighbor thinks, what the woman on the internet thinks. Whatever works for you and your family and for your child, do it and be proud of it. and don't give a flying flip what anyone else thinks.
Okay, I know you go to church. I also go to church. And in the women's group at church, we have a large, I'm going to say, young mother group. There's a good amount that are where I'm at. There's a few that are older, empty nesters. And then there's a bunch that are young mothers.
Yeah.
So they have like little babies and their oldest is 5 and things like that. Here's what I notice on the younger group is if I could give them 2 pieces of advice, this is what they would be. Number 1 is to take Instagram off their phone and stop looking at it. Because what I'm noticing, listen, I have Instagram, okay? I'm on it a little bit, but I'm definitely not on it a lot. My pictures are not curated or edited or I'm no good at Instagram. Okay, let's be honest. I'm no good at it. And these young mothers who are at home with nothing to do, with young children all the time and no like real interaction like this, they go on Instagram and they scroll and they see these gorgeous pictures of women that they wish they were and they're not. And they just get upset. They feel depressed. They feel like they'll never compare. And first of all, they don't understand that this is so fake, like all of this. There's filters for everything. You can edit your face. You can edit your body. There's all these crazy things that you can use. There's lighting tricks. You stage the photos. I'm not saying you do, but you understand. You can stage the photos to look however you want it to look. And they're not real. And so they're being sucked into this fantasy world where they don't compare and they feel like failures. And I hate that they are so attracted to something that is so bad for their mental health. So that would be tip number 1. And tip number 2, it's semi-similar, but it would almost be to like stop comparing to other moms, which I experienced as a young mother without social media.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my kid's potty trained by blah, blah, blah age. Well, mine sleeps through the night at blah, blah, blah age. And mine knows their name before preschool. And you know what I mean? My
child can read before kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly. And here's what I know for sure. No kid goes to kindergarten wearing diapers. When they get to 2nd grade, are they like, well, I nursed until I was 3. Like it's all over. It doesn't matter. I was talking to this young mom very recently, and she was panicking because her 4-year-old, 5-year-old was about to go to kindergarten. She's a teacher, like by trade, and is staying home now. And she was panicking because her kid didn't know how to write their name. And I'm like, sweetie, it literally doesn't matter. Like, you cannot worry about this thing.
Because when they go to kindergarten, guess what they're learning to do? They're learning
how to write their name. There's so much stress on these steps of what? Like, I win because I made this step, or I'm a good mom because my kid can do this thing. I'm not really sure what it is, but I just really wish they would stop comparing to everybody else's kids and put their phone down. Those are the 2 things I wish they would do. I think they would be so much happier.
Is it educational stuff they're freaking out about? Like, as a young mom right now, you know, in this day and age, is it like
some of it, yeah. The ones who are pushing like preschool, kindergarten, 1st grade, that group are definitely freaking out about that. And then when the younger ones, it's always like, you know, mine potty trained at this age and I got rid of the binky in a day, and I'm going to call it the mommy wars. It's always been going on, and I'm just not about that.
Neither am I. I'm like, big whoop. In fact, interesting that you said that, because Derek and I were in Colorado last weekend, and on our flight home, we got the shuttle after we dropped off the rental car. So we're in the shuttle going to the airport, and there was this young family that got on there. She had a baby, and the oldest child, I think, was 5, and then a 2-year-old. And there was an old lady sitting there, and I was like, and she kept asking these questions, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. I'm just going to sit here and just listen. This is going to be good. And so the little 2-year-old could talk so well. I mean, so well. And I was impressed. I was like, Derek and I looked at each other like, holy cow. And so she had a binky in her mouth, which didn't faze Derek and I. You know, our kids, I had one child that was completely addicted to the binky. But I wasn't worried because I'm like, she's not going to grow into a teenager with a binky in her mouth. I'm not worried about it, right? So the old lady's like, oh, she talks so well, but I'm sure I can understand her better if she didn't have the binky in her mouth. And I read right through that. And I was like, don't, just shut it. Don't. That does not need to be said. Like, it's not your life. You're not a part of this bubble. Great that you didn't do that, but just there's some things that just don't need to be said, because
Literally, no one asked you.
no one asked you. And it's like, oh no, is this mom going to think like she's doing a bad job? Or you don't know if maybe this child is terrified right now to go on a plane and that they only use the binky for comfort. I don't know. You don't know. So just zip it. Sometimes your opinion does not need to be said at all. I don't interject anymore. I don't give opinions anymore. And that's how, I am with our daughter who's married. I don't interject. I don't give my opinion. I only give her advice if we're talking about a subject and it is appropriate to give that advice. I don't say, hey, for the holidays, how much time are you going to give to us? Like, I don't. And I used to say that to my teenage boy a lot. Just don't. He'll be like, what? I'm like, just don't. You don't need to. He laughs because sometimes he doesn't have to say anything. And I say it to him like, just don't. And I know him so well. I will know things before he even says it. And he laughs. How do you do that?
Just know them, man.
But I think it's wise. I couldn't even imagine if I had Instagram as a young mom because I was never into Facebook when Facebook was a thing.
Well, I think I joined Facebook in 2008. So I already had 2 kids at that point, and I think we were working on number 3 around then. And can I tell you a secret? There's no one more unrelatable to me than myself on Facebook in 2008. I've been like going back over my old, your memories will pop up from like 2010. And I'm like, ugh, who is that girl? Because gross. I'm like, that's not me at all. Why? I guess it's good because we grow and, we change for the better, hopefully.
Yeah.
But back then I was like, what do you even do with this thing? I think I posted my first Instagram picture in like 2012 or 2013. And I was like, what do you do with this thing?
I still go, what am I supposed to do with this? And like people go, oh, you do social media? Maybe you could teach me. I'm like, yeah, no,
maybe I couldn't teach you.
I could probably give you some tips on YouTube, but Instagram, no.
Okay, so you've been on YouTube forever. When did you start YouTube?
Started April of 2012, 11 years now.
I don't even think I watched YouTube until like 2015.
Well, I discovered the other side of YouTube, like what we do. When I was pregnant with our last, and I wanted to get more tips on nursing because I was not a successful nurser. And so I would get on YouTube and learn. And then I don't know what I stumbled into, but I learned there's women talking about motherhood. There's this awesome, funny lady teaching about cleaning when she was Maltoast 79, Cass from Clarebug. And so,
that was her old name?
Meltoast 79. I was like, who is this lady? She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's funny.
Made me laugh. I binged all her stuff. She made me laugh so hard. And I discovered there was this whole world in 2010. This whole world, other side of YouTube.
I don't even remember how I found it, but it was later. It was like 2015.
Wow.
And yeah, I didn't even watch it at all. And mine was definitely in the fitness area. I consumed like fitness content, fitness people who were lifting weights and eating healthy and counting macros. And a lot of that's kind of where I consumed. I stumbled across you somewhere in there. I don't even remember how, when it was more vlog style. And then you kind of shifted content a little bit. So what kind of content do you produce now?
It's all in the kitchen. I do miss the old stuff and routines, but there's only so much of my world I want to share anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'm so passionate about everything because I have ADHD. It's very strong in me. It is since I was a child. Holy cow. I want to learn all the things. I want to do all the things. And I like everything. But I noticed a trend over the last 3 years of it has really always been about the food and moms and working moms and even women that followed me that didn't have children. It was like, what steps can I put in my life right now to help make things easier? We're always looking like for that easy trick fix. And that was me too, and so I just like, I'm going to focus more on the food. And I really feel like right now, especially right now during these times where it's bananas and the prices are like crazy. It's like, how can we get food on the table with any schedule that you have? Because I went from stay-at-home mom and my hobby turned into a job, and it truly is a full-time job now. And she's in her apron is grown, and I still struggle to get meals on the table. So it was like, what can I do now to have dinner later in the week? Because I love cooking, but I don't love cooking when it's chaotic. Cooking should be enjoyable. Cooking should be fun. But if I'm stressed out, it's not fun. And then you're going to go for the takeout. So I like having things in the freezers ready to go to make a meal. And then it came about like, times are crazy. How can we have our go-to meals on the shelf and ready to go? It's not hoarding, but what can you do to be a step ahead? And so I love teaching on how to do that and build a rotating pantry. And I love
If
it.
you were to start from scratch, let's say someone has nothing, like maybe a bag of flour and some salt and pepper and some sugar, like that's their pantry, okay? Very minimal. And they want to get to where you are, which is extensive. If people have not seen your videos where you show your food room, which has this very large rotating pantry
Yeah.
that you do eat from and you replenish, how long would you say it would take to build up to that magnitude? Because when someone first sees it, I'm sure they're like, whoa, I don't know.
It doesn't take as long as you think it does. And I love getting emails and comments from women that said, I thought this was crazy. And so I started doing what you said, like buy one now, two for later, which I didn't come up with that. They realized that it grew quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't take as long. So I just encourage them, just do what you can. Like this has grown a little bit over the last like year and a half. So if someone had followed me from the beginning, they could see like it was a little smaller, but it grew because I'm also learning how to be a better shopper. And that's what I share. I am learning and focusing more on like the tactics that the stores do to get you to buy more. I've noticed that like, wait a minute, we always gravitate toward these meals. So when there's a sale, I need to stock up on that because we literally have this one meal 3 times a month. So why am I running to the store all the time for that thing and paying for it full price? So it's like, it's easier than people think. It just takes a little bit of strategy and planning, but honestly, it's second nature. It will become second nature.
So I get some pushback sometimes on my content, which is a lot about saving money on groceries, where yours is like maybe some freezer meals, have everything you need to make a dinner.
Yeah.
So it's easy, and mine's more like I can cut your grocery bill in half.
Yeah.
I have one skill. That's what it is. So I get people all the time. I can't do that in my town. We don't have XYZ, blah, 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 blah. In the last year, here are the places I have traveled, gone to the grocery store, and found clearance food. Are you ready? I have been to Phoenix, Arizona, clearance food. Moab, Utah, which is a tourist town, clearance food. Anchorage, Alaska, clearance food. Maui, clearance food. California, I'm talking Laguna Beach, pricey clearance food. Like I found clearance food in all of those places. And I get pushback all the time from people who say this can't be done in my area. And while I'm willing to listen, I understand food in Canada is more expensive than the United States. Yes, that is true. However, I just think there are some strategies that people can implement and open their eyes a little bit more.
Yep.
And I still think they can save money no matter where they are.
And no matter what your budget is and situation is. I get a lot of people that say we're on a limited income and I can't do this. And I'm like, oh, yes, you can, because we've done it. It takes planning, being methodical, and you can do it.
If someone were to start with one thing, what would you say it would be for their long-term pantry? One thing. What's the first thing?
I think everyone needs to learn to bake bread.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah. I think if you learn to bake bread, it's going to trickle. You're going to learn to make hamburger buns and hot dog buns. And so you're going to learn to make tortillas. You can learn how to make a bagel. You can learn how to make an English muffin. And it's going to trickle down into like, I can learn that with these items in my pantry, I don't have to go out and buy brownie mix or cake mix because I have everything for it right here. and it's going to trickle into that. And so I honestly say have the basics for bread. It's motivating. I don't know what it is. Like I say, like when I get in my apron, I want to clean and be productive in some way. But I'm telling you, when I bake bread, and I've baked bread for years now, which I learned not that long ago, I would say probably maybe 15 years ago, I learned how to really like make bread. And there's some sort of confidence builder when that comes out of the oven and it's warm, and like you can make a sandwich with it. You can feed your family with it. And it's just, there's something motivating to me about, I did that. I made bread and it didn't come out like a brick. Because if you use certain wheats, it will. For me, built my confidence in cooking more and just trying new things. If you could bake bread, you
can do anything. I agree with you. It's so cheap and it's so delicious. There is nothing like warm homemade bread right out of the oven. My kids will eat a whole loaf in 10 minutes. That's why I always make 4.
Yeah, I have the Pullman pans, and the recipes that I have actually make 3 loaves of bread. So when they come out, we devour one, and then one is for the freezer and the other one is for the week. But it just depends on how many kids. Sometimes I would have to do 2 batches and get 6 loaves. But when we bake bread, man, oh yeah, the butter and the jam comes out, and it's just like, oh, so good.
So not only do you have YouTube, which can be found obviously as She's in Her Apron on YouTube, you have a planner?
I do.
Also,
yes.
Tell me about that.
We have a website that we started, which one day I'll get good at. We have a website that has a store, and we sell planners. We have the She's in Her Apron planner. And this is how I think I created a planner literally to help me and my ADHD. I've tried lots of planners over the years, and they're all great, but I think differently than most people. And so I needed things that would alert me. And so I created a planner that would help me keep on task, but not feel guilty if I wasn't doing it. But I wanted something also where I could put a checkbox and feel like, So I came up with the planner, and I love it. So yeah, we sell planners. I just launched a Know Before You Go price book. And so I took what I was using at home on my computer, and my friend, who is an amazing graphic designer, I said, can you get my brain and have it fit in this size? Can you do that for me? And so she did it. So now we have a price book, and there's like 30 something categories in here to help you keep track of your prices, the base prices of things.
So what's the website called?
It's she'sinherapron.com.
Okay, nice and easy to remember. So I know you said that you watch Friends. So just feel like I understand you so well now. So aside from Friends, are you into any other TV and or movies?
We're huge movie people here. If you were to be in the room with me and my side of the family, we're a walking movie quote. That's what we do. Yeah,
I would fit in so well.
Yeah, like I'm constantly quoting. And when someone doesn't know a Friends quote, it drives me crazy.
I mean, have you lived on planet Earth? Come on.
I know. And like we'll say things like around my son-in-law, and I'm like, can you please just binge Friends? If we're going to make this work, I am into this show right now called Ghosts, and I found it on Hulu, and I'm sure it's on like some station on TV, but we don't have TV, so we always watch like Netflix and Hulu and Apple TV. And it's called Ghosts, and this girl inherits like this beautiful old, not Victorian, but like older home, like you would see like on Pride and Prejudice basically. And she falls and gets hurt in there, and then she comes to, and she could see the ghosts that live in that house. Anyone that had died on the property is there. And it is so funny. It is so good. And then I just found out there's like a British version of it, kind of like The Office, like it started the British version, and it is so good. So
it says it's on CBS.
Yeah, it's on its 2nd season, and it's just so fun. It just makes me laugh. It's just so funny. So yeah, I'm into that show right now.
Okay, favorite movie?
Parent Trap with Haley Mills.
Oh, yes. I grew up watching that movie, and Pollyanna. That's a good version. I like that one.
Yeah, it's the only good version. I've watched the others on my own. Nice try.
Do you ever think the Parent Trap was a weird concept? Like, on what planet is like one parent taking
that would
one kid? Like that would never, it's, if you think about it realistically, you're like, that would never happen. Like no parents would agree to that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've heard of stories. I've actually saw something on documentary on TV where there were twins that were separated, but they were in like not foster care. They were given up for adoption, like in an orphanage. And like, I don't even think they were from America, but one ended up being adopted here. And then her sister came out to America for school or something. And someone on campus kept saying like, you look like so-and-so. And so finally she met her and they were like, okay, nope, and they found out that they were twins.
Wow.
That's
That
crazy.
is crazy. Okay, maybe in one instance that happens.
One instance, I've only heard that. But in a natural divorce situation, I don't know. Maybe your audience can tell us if they know a situation, but I've never heard of anything like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have kept you long enough. So I have to ask you one final question I ask everybody. It's the last day of your life. You have one last meal. You don't have to make it or clean up. What are you eating?
Lobster.
Mm-hmm.
All the live long day. Give me a platter of lobster and a vat of butter, and I'm eating that. You could throw some steamers on there. I love shellfish. Like, honestly, I could eat it all the time. I crave it. I grew up back east in Massachusetts. Give me clams, give me shrimp, give me lobster. I could eat that all the time. And it's like, why is my favorite food something that is so expensive?
That's
But
like
it
me
is.
with shoes. How come my favorite shoes are so expensive? I don't know.
But I could eat lobster constantly. When I see the lobster tails at Costco, over by the fresh fish and stuff that they have out, when I see it at a really good price, I scoop it up and I separate them into so if there's 6 in a package, I will put 2 tails in the fridge and then 2 packages of 2 in the freezer so I can have later. So when I'm like, I want lobster, I will cook I know it's horrible. I'm like, why is like the thing I crave all the time the most expensive thing?
I don't eat lobster very often because it's expensive, but it is delicious.
It's delicious. That and steamers, like clams. Give me a big pot of steamers with the butter. Yep.
Okay, Kimmy, thank you for joining me today. I will, of course, leave all of your information in the show notes for anybody that would like to go check out your channel or purchase a planner, or is the price book? Is that what you called it? Know before you go, price book. Okay, thanks so much. We're going to leave it there.
Thanks.